Sweet. Alrighty. Okay. Mic check, mic check. All right. I'm going to talk about steering. We got a lot of new people this year, so that means a lot of new steersmen. Thanks for steering. I'm sure it's probably new for some of you guys. It helps to have some context for what I'm going to be talking about here. So now that you have some, I'm going to just kind of go over steering stuff, I guess, or what I consider to be good steering technique. So we'll just start with a basic bit of theory first, in terms of what you're actually doing when you're steering. So we'll pretend, say this is a canoe. This is the front of the canoe. This is the back of the canoe. So you always steer from the back of the canoe. And essentially what you're doing is you're balancing. You're balancing the canoe like this, okay? And if you're a bad steersman or new steersman, it's gonna kind of go like this because your steering inputs aren't quite as quick, right? So there may be a lag, and sometimes you overcorrect, right? And the boat will feel it pretty much, whenever it goes too off to the side like this. And as you get better as a steersman, it's going to look more like this, right? And so the basic thing is you kind of want to get out of the way and let the boat do its thing. If you add too much steering input, it creates a lot of drag. You're overcorrecting, it gets sideways, and nobody's happy, right? So, as a steersman, you have probably the biggest potential impact in terms of just how the boat feels and behaves. So I want to give you the proper tools to do that. So basically this is a game, except it's not three-dimensional, it's two-dimensional. It's only left and right. So your steering inputs make the boat go left or right, and that's it. Okay? So that being said, how do you actually do that, right? So there's really only two mechanisms to do that, right? One is a poke, right? When you put the blade against the gunnel, water pushes the blade this way, right? And then the boat turns left because you're pushing the back of the boat this way, right? The other way is you draw in like this, which pulls the back that way, and you go right, right? Converse on this side, right? So there's really not that many mechanisms. Of course, there's a lot of nuance, right, in terms of these steering inputs. So I'm just going to kind of go over the proper body mechanics to apply these. Same basics always apply. Good posture, legs are braced, right? You don't want to get in a position, I sometimes see people do where you're trying to poke so hard and you want to balance the boat, you kind of end up in this laying back position, like, I see that sometimes, especially when you want all this stability, trying to get stable or whatever, but don't end up like this, basically, right? You always want to maintain good posture, right? Because it allows you to do steering inputs and paddle effectively, right? So the main thing with the poke is accuracy. So what contributes? The biggest contributor to just lag or how long it takes for the boat to turn is just how quickly and accurately you can put this blade face here against the gunnel, right? So most newer people, it's not that accurate. It takes them a bit of time to get this fully engaged and the pressure applied, right? So first thing is accuracy. So whenever you're putting in steering inputs, right, set up your blade so that it's already lined up with the gunnel, so that once it goes in, the input already starts. So you're trying to avoid any amount of sloppiness, right? So poking from side to side, right, as you can see, right, you want to be accurate and quick, because having those two will give you the basic tools necessary to balance the boat with subtlety, right? And giving those quick steering inputs that allows you to make adjustments to whether the boat's more powerful on the left side or the right side, or some wind is coming in or waves, whatever, right? The point is, you want to develop quickness and accuracy in all these movements. Okay, so what are these movements? Of course, one is the poke, right? Right, we know the poke. You know, you generally want it around here, but sometimes it will happen further back. I'll get to that later, right? So there's only a couple of movements here. One is the poke. Now, how do you get to this poke from boats turning left? I want to turn right, right? So oftentimes I see in these transition of movements, especially newer steersmen, they'll kind of fumble a little bit, right? So it's like anything else, you know, practice makes perfect. So you'll want to work on these slowly so that you can you can develop these movements accurately and effectively, right? So go from poke to here. You notice there's more like dynamic motions compared to regular paddling. You're going to be doing more stuff than just paddling, right? So one is you poke. Say you're already starting to poke, right? All right. You have your blade nice and flat. I want to go to the other side, right? So you'll want to, the best way I found to get it out isn't to necessarily lift it up like this. It's to actually have it come out the side and the back, like this, right? There's a couple of ways you can do this. I don't think there's any official right or wrong way, but this is just how I see all the top steersmen do it. Okay, so you can lift it up, right? The key is you need to get the blade from this angle, twist it all the way like this to this angle, right? So that takes a bit more work. There's a lot more wrist twisting that's got to happen, right? So you're sideways this way, you grab it, right? Kind of sideways. Now as it comes out, you need to really have a big motion here. You see this? All the way to get this nice and set up so that when I come in on this right side poke, it's good to go, right? It's already, the steering input's already happening. So you want to be able to do it quickly, right? Right? Practice slowly though, right? And whatever's comfortable for you. Some people like to lift it out like this and then put it in, or lift it out like this and put it in, or go do a sideways thing like this, right? And I just keep whatever hand is on there. I don't switch hands as I'm switching sides. That's just easier for me. I don't see any reason why you can't switch hands as you're doing it, right? I just keep one hand because that's just easier for me. Whatever's hand is already on there, I just use that to switch sides, and I just keep it there, right? If the left side's here, I just keep the left side here on top. See that? Okay, so that's the first move. The second move is transitioning from stroking to poking. All right, so you're taking a stroke, right? Taking a stroke and poke, right? Taking a stroke, and poke, right? The motion when I go from here out back like this to this side, it's actually very similar to going from a stroke to a poke. So I do a stroke, it's already going back out this side, see? You see that? I messed that one up. Okay? It's going this way. It's out. At this point, it's out, right? And you see I'm bringing it back. I'm getting it nice and set up for this poke, okay? All right? See that? So the other variation of that would be to go from a stroke to a poke on this side, right? So very similar to when you're poking and you want to poke on this side. See, because the paddle already comes out the back when you stroke. See? It's already out, kind of helping you along here. See, it's the position it's already in. I just got to bring it over this way. See? All right? Okay? speed and accuracy. Right? So, and so that'll basically allow you to take strokes as often as possible, right? Being able to transition between poking and stroking, right? Your strokes are going to be much more varied. When you're just paddling, you're just going front to back. When you're steering, you may be going from here to here to here to all the way sideways, right? So there's a lot more, it's a lot more dynamic, and there's a lot more going on in terms of compared to just paddling, right? Right. So you want to be able to engage all these variations at any point in time, which is why I tell you, you got to have your good posture, right? Because you're going to be doing this to this to this to this to this to this, right? So the other variation is going from a poke to a stroke, right? Similarly, have it come out the back. The reason you want to have it to come out the back is because it's kind of like the end of a stroke already. You see that? Once it comes out the back, you just set up for another stroke, right? It's already similar to the end of your stroke. Here, it comes out the back. See that? I get myself set up for the next stroke. At this point, I'm just doing a regular recovery and a paddle stroke, right? So it's always, you always want to be prepared for any position, you know, mostly stay centered and stay balanced, etc. Going from a poke to a stroke on this side, right? So this will enlist your basic skill in terms of changes, right? So good changes are important, especially for steering, because if you're really good, you don't even have to poke or do anything. You can just paddle this way, get some paddle this way, and just paddle. Just keep paddling. You're adjusting your steering inputs by the angle of your blade and how quickly you can switch, right? So going from here, same thing. You exit, right, in the back like usual, and then you do a change as you normally would, right? Take a stroke, take a poke, come out the back, right? At this point, it's like the end of a regular paddle stroke. You just do a change, okay? Right? Right. A stroke, right? So I think that covers all the variations. You're really only going from poke to poke, right? Poke to stroke, right? Or stroke to poke. That's it. So there's only a few different like moves, so to speak, but within the moves there's a lot of like nuance and stuff, and that's where experience comes in, and just kind of understanding, you know, what's happening and what's happening around you. But that's all practice. The main thing I want you to focus on is when you do these moves, is that you do them with precision. Let the speed build up later, okay? That'll make the biggest improvement, right? And avoid the situation where you just basically keep doing the suboptimal movement, and years later you're still doing it, right? So now that you've got some steering context and experience there, you know, it's a good time to apply that now. I'm going to talk about some just general little scenarios, maybe, just so you can work through, so you can get like more paddling in. One of the easiest ones, for example, would be, you know, say you want to make a right turn, right? So my right is that way. What you can do is start maybe doing a slight poke, get the boat slightly tipped. As you know, the more the boat tips, the further it goes, the more quickly it tips, right? So you just want to tip it just a little bit, and the boat's going to want to keep tipping this way, right? So what you do is, when you're making a right turn, just tip it a little bit, and then once the boat's tipping, you can take a lot of strokes on the right side, especially these side strokes here, right? So you're counteracting the tipping, you know? when you have a swell coming at you, right? It's going to always want to basically, generally, it's going to want to turn the boat, right? So what you want to do is kind of just before the swell arrives, right? And most of the time you're going to be poking to the right, right? When the swell hits you, most of the time the boat's going to want to turn to the left because of the ama. So as a general rule of thumb, except in certain specific conditions, but as a general rule of thumb, you'll want to poke right to counteract whatever the swell is trying to make the boat do, right? Because then you capture the energy from that swell into the boat. It's almost like keeling in sailing, right? So those are just kind of two basic examples to think about and just get you started. There's many variations of this, but I don't think it's worth exploring in too much detail about that stuff because it's mostly experience and feel. What I do want you to do is just practice precision and speed in terms of getting these basic steering inputs down. Your poking, transition to your stroking, to the other side, transition, right? It's all about just getting these basic movements down perfect. And then from there, you don't have to think. You just things just happen automatically and you don't have to react to things, right? Once it's all kind of ingrained, it allows you like a lot more freedom and just to have a lot more fun, I guess, in terms of steering without being, too stressed. It's already stressful enough as it is, so you really want to make these things kind of instinctive almost, all right? And that starts with just perfect practice, okay? So I think that's about it. I'm sure I'm forgotten some stuff, but it's fine. Feel free to just ping me with any questions or whatever. I'm happy to answer or help. Okay? Thanks all.